Welcome, everybody, to this 6-5 podcast. We're live today on all the platforms. And also, of course, we are coming to you on your subscriptions on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, and everywhere else. Is it iTunes? Apple Podcasts. I'm Daniel Newman, your host with Patrick Moorhead of Moor Insights and Strategy. And we're back for another week. More news, more tech, so much going on. And we're excited. We're always excited. It's Friday morning, and it's been another big week. The earnings wave begins. We've heard a lot from companies. We've got some big news on the sustainability and ESG front. But heck, another good week. How are you, Mr. Moorhead?
I'm doing great. We're doing our best imitation of Seattle today. Super foggy, a little bit of rain. It's like the clouds are 5 feet off the ground. But I'm happy it's Friday. Daniel, it's just something refreshing about pounding out a great week, making a bunch of clients happy, saying more smart things than dumb things on Twitter and in meetings. So I'm going to take this week as a win. Now, there's still a few hours left today, but we'll see. Feeling pretty good. Thanks for asking, though.
Yeah. So, our friend, Mr. Gelsinger at Intel said he has a say-do ratio that he talks about. You have a smart dumb ratio is what you're saying now. We're gonna have to mark that somewhere. Can we keep a list of Pat's tweets, and then it's like a room rater? Is this a thumbs up or a thumbs down? We should come up with that concept. Anyway,
I don't know. I kind of like there's some Danisms that I like that are pretty good. If you look at my Patisms, most of them come from probably my dad or my grandfather, who grew up in southeastern Ohio. In a coal mining town called Cambridge, Ohio. So typically can map it back there. So
little known about the big tech guy, that he came from a small town where money was made on the old coal industry. You got coal and steel. Yep. You're right there next to Pennsylvania and the Pittsburgh area. Well,
exactly.
Listen, everybody, we always appreciate you tuning into our show. The 6-5 is always focused on delivering you at least 6, sometimes more, deep analysis of some of the week's biggest tech items. And, that's our big focus here. Not news, more analysis, occasionally a little bit of news, but only as much as you need. Quick disclaimer, this show is for information and entertainment purposes only. And while we will be talking about publicly traded companies, earnings, results, performances, executives, and products and services, this show is not to be taken as investment advice. Like I said, excited about this show. Some big topics. The earnings wave is underway. So this week we had Intel, we had IBM, we just had Honeywell, Snap, some others, and we're going to cover a few of those today. Next week, you can be sure, is going to be a crazy week of coverage from us, as we have AMD, we have Apple, we have Qualcomm, we have Google, we have Microsoft, we have Amazon. Did I say Amazon? If I did, I said it twice. But that's 6 massive companies will all be delivering their results. And again, not just about the results, the earnings, and the stocks, but really about the analysis of these companies and how they're doing against their strategies. As industry guys, that's what we are looking at. So anyways, great show this week. Let's get started, Pat. Let's talk about, we have a couple of interesting ESG announcements to talk about today, but Amazon, I say can't stop, won't stop, came out with an announcement this week. I think it's crossed 100 major global corporations are now participating in its climate pledge.
Yeah, so Amazon, is in the news for a lot of reasons. Some of them are good, some of them are negative. We talked a lot about this on the show, and Amazon is a company that is so important for so many reasons. I mean, at a COVID as an example, at a time where we couldn't leave our homes, they were the company that brought us our food, our PCs, just pretty much everything. And they hired close to 400,000 plus workers as well. They adopted a $15 minimum wage that even Democratic socialists like Bernie Sanders were really wanting to get for the rest of the company. So, it's almost as if on sustainability, Amazon is in a competition with everybody else. And I kind of like that because, and Danny, you and I talked about this on a vendor call the other day. Sometimes competition or trying to be first with things is not necessarily the best thing, but in some ways it raises all boats and has everybody looking at you. So Amazon had a few announcements, and again, this is you can read this on my Forbes column. And Daniel, I know you'll probably be writing something up, but climate pledge, and this is getting ahead of the Paris Accord by 10 years. New signatories, is that the right word? New people signed up: Alaska Airlines, Colgate Palmolive, Heineken, Pepsi, Telefonica, Visa, just to name a few. Also talked about eco-conscious shopping options. 75,000 climate pledge friendly products available in the US and the EU. I don't think that means you can eat the packaging, Daniel, but I have a sneaking suspicion. You're supposed to laugh, by the way. Sneaking suspicion that these products and the packaging are very eco-friendly. And these are products that go all the way from rum, from Flor de Caña, to Logitech mice. So pretty wide range there. Giving a 15 to 25% discount on those certified products from Honest Company, 7th generation, Ethique, products like that. And I think finally talking about renewables, Amazon not only is the biggest online retail seller, not the biggest retailer. I think they have a whopping 2% of retail market share, but electronically, they do lead in the US. They also have a very, very successful cloud business, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. And there are 206 renewable energy projects worldwide. There are wind products, solar rooftops, and all in all, Amazon says they're going to create 8 gigawatts of global electricity production capacity, making it what they're calling the most significant corporate buyer of renewable energy sources in Europe. Pretty awesome sauce. And again, it's great to see the 1,000-pound gorilla like Amazon can pull a lot of weight on initiatives like this, and gets us into a competition. Even Google had an announcement. I know we're talking Amazon here, but Google had an announcement where you could actually select where you put your workloads based on the type and cleanliness of that energy, and also the latency. Because, even if you want to do good, if the cleanest energy is coming out of Portugal and, it triples your latency, that's not a good decision. But all in all, good stuff, Amazon.
Yeah. So listen, Pat, just a couple of quick thoughts on this particular topic. One, the climate change activism that's going on in big tech and in big corporate is really table stakes. So I give Amazon a lot of credit, and the 100 companies, even Microsoft and Amazon are working together on this one. When we talk later about the Apple event, you'll note that there was some significant mentions of their plans around the climate. We're going to talk about HP and a climate pledge. We had a meeting and we overheard from some of the executives at Hewlett Packard Enterprise, the other HP, about their strategy. And it is table stakes in the sense that even executives will admit people won't pay more for it. But nowadays, if you are a big tech company and you want to be considered legit and in touch with society, your ESG efforts are going to include a significant sustainability plan that clearly articulates how you are protecting Mother Earth. And look, you're a little older than me, but we have children of, close in the same age. And, it's not even really just about us. It's really about our kids and our kids' kids. And, that these companies are trying to do something, because we are taking a lot of resources from the world, and big tech and big corporations have the power, capability, resources, and vision, I hope, to actually participate in returning some of those resources and helping create a more sustainable footprint. So why are we talking sustainability all the time on the show? Look, it's a big underpinning of the strategy of tech going forward. We need to think about this particular topic. All right. Hey, listen, we got to move on, man, because we just tend to always get caught up in everything, Pat, because we just have so much to say.
I know.
All right, let's talk about IBM earnings, and I'll kick this one off. So this company is about to spin off its managed infrastructure business. They named it this quarter Kyndryl. I think we should have a show, by the way, to talk about that name. I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Hide your Kyndryls, quick.
Hide your Kyndryls or give it to your kids when they have a bee sting. I'm not sure, but the name needs to sit with me a little. It needs to marinate. It's kind of like when a vehicle manufacturer comes out with a new body style, and you're like, oh, I like the old one better. But then at some point, it just becomes the body style, and you realize that they're just smarter than you. So maybe there's something going on here. So we need to spend some time there. But this quarter, IBM overshot the expectation, $1.77 versus $1.63 on revenue, beat the top line narrowly, 17.73 billion, versus 17.35, which was expected. So good news, Pat. 0.9% growth. If you don't adjust for constant currency, and again, some people do, some people don't. If you adjust, it was actually a slight decline. The reason I mentioned this is the company is coming off of I believe it's a year straight of declines in revenue, and everybody's eyes are all over IBM. Can they get back to growth? So even if it's slow growth, it is growth, and having the earnings grow is good as well. Some good highlights this quarter, Pat. You had some very significant progress in the cloud revenue growth. They showed about 18% specifically in cloud revenue. Now, it's important they couple cloud and cognitive services. And when they put that all together, it's not 18%. But there's a lot of parts and pieces in that number. And by the way, that's kind of commonplace. You look at Oracle, you look at Microsoft Intelligent Cloud. None of them are just talking about pure cloud. So you have to really be able to discern those numbers. Another really great number, Pat, was in the systems.
Hey, Daniel, though, what is pure cloud, though? It's like,
well, you're not going to ask me that now. We're going to have a 47-minute discussion on pure cloud.
I know.
Okay. I'm going to draw a picture of a stack. It's going to start at, hey, by the way, chips and SaaS. That's the answer to everything, by the way.
It is.
Chips and SaaS.
I pull the string behind my head. Hey, what's hot? Chips and SaaS.
And like little things fall from the sky. Just let me hit one or two more things. I'll leave a little oxygen for you, Pat, because
no, you're doing a good job. No, this is good. Continue.
This is a good one. But the systems group grew on a very slim margin, but the Z. So last quarter, Z had a very soft number, and we all know we're in the 15th generation, or 15th. Z15 is what they're calling it. Z15, however you want to say it, but at almost 50% growth. And so this is huge because, for all the naysayers that have said the mainframe is dead, it's still very, very much alive. And this company, by the way, IBM, its focus is all about enterprise hybrid cloud solutions, meaning they're not trying to compete in every place where Azure is playing, Google is playing, or AWS. They're really trying to be very steadfast. They're being very verticalized. So you look at things like IBM and their financial services cloud and what they're trying to accomplish. They're looking at regulated industries. They're looking at building workloads that really think from prem to cloud, very control plane friendly, the cloud packs and services, building pre-built services that take into consideration regulatory and compliance needs. And then on top of that, security driven, very security driven, the hyper protect services, confidential computing, all at the core of what the company is trying to do. So I see it's kind of a lagging, there's a kind of a lagging indicator effect that its transformation to cloud under Arvind Krishna and Jim Whitehurst, the president, is really something that you have to give some time. Kind of like we've done with Intel. We're talking about 2023 and IDM 2.0, and everybody's feeling really positive about it. Well, you don't pivot a massive strategy of a company who did business one way to another and expect all of it to happen in 6 to 12 months. This is going to take some years. But with Red Hat showing double-digit growth, and with the company spinning off the Benadryl, Kyndryl, and getting out of a business that's been kind of a boat anchor on its numbers quarter over quarter, it's a big revenue number and it doesn't grow, is going to give IBM a chance to return to mid-single or even high single-digit growth, which is what I believe the market is looking for.
You did leave some oxygen in the room. I appreciate this, but hey, we do kind of lead lag topics, and this was your topic, and you did a great job on it. Here's the thing. I think industry analysts play a huge role in this. I think financial analysts are going to pick the scab of, 1% growth, 1%, laggard. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and quite frankly, if you don't have a very large SaaS play, you're not in collaboration or devices, you're probably not going to do very well. And IBM is in none of those. Okay. So seeing any growth, Daniel, to me is a plus. The things that I'm looking at are Red Hat. I'd love to see, Red Hat double digit, but then again, when I look at cloud and cognitive software that grew 34%, this is basically, the high running software. This is true cloud software per your definition. And then I see just coming out of the blue a 49% growth in Z. Now, systems were only up 2%, and I need to do a little bit more research on this. OS revenue, so operating system revenues, were down a huge amount that pulled down that overall systems revenue. And that could potentially be hey, I'm trading IBM OS for Red Hat OS. So, we move the bucket. And actually, for Z, that would be a huge strategically positive thing. So I need to dive into that a little bit. It is concerning to see power to continue to slide. I think there are some things that power brings that quite frankly, x86 doesn't bring to the table yet with AMD and Intel. So it's kind of a head scratcher for me. The power new architecture coming up that they announced at a recent chip conference, though, gives me a lot of hope because the technology is better in some ways, but then again, the best technology doesn't always win.
Absolutely, and the IBM, what's it called, the hard platform, their chip platform, the whole thing. A lot of people don't realize, but there was a recent announcement of an Intel partnership. When it comes to, I think, some of the earliest 7 nanometer prototypes, IBM was involved. You and I obviously have so much chip stuff coming on. Just wait till you see our 6.5 Summit lineup, by the way. Sorry, I can't say anything else. But IBM is bigger in this space than a lot of people realize. But overall, like I said, I think that shift to hybrid matters. That Red Hat deal continuing to show double-digit revenue year over year in growth, continuing to win. And winning alongside, by the way, the AWSs and Microsofts, and being part of these deals is going to be very, very important for IBM's long-term growth with this enterprise hybrid cloud strategy. Pat, we got to move on, man. Listen, we promised everybody sustainability was going to be a little bit of a top topic. So this week was 420 and Earth Day. And I only say those things like as distinct events because apparently with all the legalization that's happened here in this country, 420 is a bigger holiday than I even remembered it being. Dazed and confused, they shall say. But anyways, it's like Joe Kernan on CNBC. He always finds a way to talk about marijuana and marijuana stocks. I don't know what his deal is with that, but it always makes me laugh.
Stonks, Daniel. It stonks now.
Stonks.
Get with the program.
Stonks. But listen, HP is also getting into this space, and another company that's on a really, really solid trajectory. You wrote a nice piece in Forbes talking a little bit about what's going on there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So HP, basically PCs and printers and software and services. So they do create a lot of potential things that can pollute the environment. They've been very aggressive on this, which I think I appreciate. But they came out swinging on this. Essentially, their overarching motivations reiterated net zero carbon, fully regenerative economy, reduce the overall environmental footprint, and create and here's the clincher, the most sustainable portfolio of products and solution in the industry. Basically, that's saying we're going to do this better than you, Dell, Lenovo, Apple, Canon, and Xerox. So those are some pretty big fighting words. They came out with some new timeframes when they're going to reach net zero carbon neutrality. reduction in value chain, greenhouse gas emissions, deforestation, reach net zero deforestation, counteract deforestation for non-HP paper. See, HP printed paper, they basically, and I'm simplifying this, right? You buy a binder full of HP paper and they plant a tree. I know that's not exactly it, but you get the point. Even using non-HP printer. And then they talked about, which I think for the people tuning in is even more interesting. They talked about the 5 things that they're going to do. So first, transitioning portfolio to print and compute as a service models. They're implementing a supplies renewal services like Instant Ink that we talked a little bit about here, and adopting more circular hardware solutions. We wrote a white paper on that. You can find that on my website. Ching. Third, decarbonization of supply chain, encouraging the shift to renewable electricity. And fourth, designing products with both existing and new energy efficient technologies. So I know that sounds a little bit like motherhood and apple pie, but here's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see some designs from the ground up that are upgradable, that can be used for a decade. That's what I'd like to see from HP, and maybe that's hidden inside of some of the words here on what they're going to do. But that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see an entire lineup. And yes, I know it's more expensive. Yes, I know it's probably going to be a little bit thicker. But let's put our money where our mouth is. We either believe that consumers care about this and are willing to pay something. I got to tell you, though, Dana, you had mentioned that call we had with HPE, very pragmatic, that, hey, consumers won't pay more. Well, if they don't pay more, can we really say that we really care about that? Well, we only have 20 minutes left here, but we should debate that at some point. If people aren't willing to pay more, are we really behind this?
Well, let me touch on that quickly. I mean, I think people are going to start paying less for companies that don't do it. So there's different derivatives to yield the result, and people will start paying less or supporting less. So keeping margins intact, needing to find ways to build sustainable products with greater margins and greater efficiencies. We're still in the early innings. It costs more. It's more complex. It's more difficult. And, we definitely could take some time, talk more about this. I will also say, Pat, some companies are getting really creative. I'm a watch guy, and I'm turning 40 this month, in case anybody wants to rain down presents on me. But I was looking for kind of a cool watch, nothing crazy, and not like a Patek Philippe, but I like these Panerai watches, and they're kind of a mid-tier watch. And they're doing this E-steel, simple case watch now, 100% sustainable. Everything, the steel is fully recycled, the band, the strap. And all I'm saying is, like, this is the way you start to get there. It's one step at a time, one foot in front of the other. Companies doing little things. So we're getting there. We're hearing things, but there's always more that can be done, like Moor Insights. Anyway, let's jump on, Pat, because we always do go long, and I want to make sure we get through all this stuff. A little bit of a quicker shot through the ball here, but Honeywell. So over the last few months, you and I have been talking more about this company. And I feel like each time we bring them on as a topic on the show, we need to sort of remind people, this is a company that has a massive commitment to quantum. This is a company that has a significant commitment in IoT and converged enterprise performance management software, building management using intelligence, AI, IoT. Well, this quarter, the company came in with some pretty solid results. And when I say, solid results, I am basically saying beating the expectations that were coming in from the streets. So, just touching on it quickly, because overall, the company came in above on earnings. The company came in above expectations on revenue, fairly flat, Pat, on a year over year basis. What are we looking at? We're not looking at masks. We're not looking at building products, thermostats. But what we are looking at is the fact that this company is layering in software, SaaS-based software solutions that overlay buildings, overlay jet engines, overlay their production, their workflow management for hundreds of thousands of industrial companies that use Honeywell. And so what we got from CEO Darius Adamczyk, who I look forward to you and I talking to at some point in the near future, maybe at an event, but is that they're seeing double-digit percentage growth in their software business that's focused on IoT and SaaS and enterprise performance. And this is basically, as I see it, the two spots where I want to see more strength from Honeywell. First of all, I want to see this capability laid into more products and more clearly articulated to the market by the company how Honeywell Forge, EPM are part of the bigger and broader story of the company's success. We'll come back and be talking more and more, but in terms of Honeywell, the company's on par, and it really is. I think if you and I had one big objective here is to help people see that this pivot is not a temporary or a momentary thing. This company is coming into technology, much like we've seen, with Siemens and others. This is the focus, not an afterthought and not an extension. We'll see if they can get there soon.
Good analysis, Daniel. Yeah, I can't wait. The way I look at Honeywell right now is they're one of the only, if not the only, OT plus IT companies. They hired a bunch of incredible people out of IT to augment that. They come up with an industry-leading EPM, and in many ways, they're leading on many vectors in quantum. And these things just take time. Right? I mean, when you're looking at quantum, which people are debating, hey, 5 years or 10 years, it's going to take some time. We need to be patient. What's more near term to me, but still a very long lift is the industrial IoT. And the way that we manage it, those are very long lifts because a lot of these are brownfield and it takes time. But what you and I get paid to do primarily is it's fun to talk stonks, but it's to point out kind of the gems of the industry. So good stuff, Daniel.
Yeah, more time in the near future. Let's go to Intel, Pat, and you and I could either or riff. You want to jump in first on this one, just because I don't want to hog the show.
No, I can jump right in. I mean, they had stronger than expected start to 2021. They exceeded their January guidance by like over $1 billion in EPS by 29 cents. That one of the things that I think weighed on the stock were the numbers for Data Center Group that were markedly down. Now, if people paid attention to the earlier call, they would have recognized that. Well, first of all, the company doesn't break out DCG and CCG, so. But if you look at the overall number, Intel had this baked in, and there was also, there's 2 or 3 financial analysts who go and do their spreadsheets. They do break it out, and there's this $500 million allocation that was discussed that I believe those financial analysts put it in the wrong bucket. So what they concluded that DCG missed their numbers, and it's weighing heavy on the stock. I'm always looking at ASPs, Daniel. I mean, if there's at the end of the day, what communicates the strength of your product line are ASPs. And both DCG and CCG were down. CCG, to me, I think were driven primarily by Intel going after the low end of the market that is exploding with COVID, whether it be Chromebooks or low-end notebooks. DCG to me was a similar mix shift, but I also think, and we'll see when AMD releases theirs, potentially weighing competition came in and is finally starting to impact DCG.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover here too, Pat, and 6 topics, 5 minutes. This one could be a 45-minute conversation, but you mentioned a great point with the ASPs. A couple things that caught my attention. One was the continued strength of client and notebooks in general. 54% up on the notebook business, 38% across the whole PC space. Like you said, a lot of lower end, and a lot of people are kind of holding that against the company. But I look at that as wins are wins, growth is growth. That's the most chips in a single quarter for notebooks, I believe, ever for Intel. So that was good. You hit it head on with the DCG number, Pat. You also have to remember last year there was a windfall result. So everybody's looking at that year over year number being down, but this quarter, same time last year, the company had a blowout number. So it was kind of it was a little bit of a unicorn type of event last year. So the number isn't as much bad. So you take that 500 million incorrect bucketed, and then you take the fact that the result a year ago was kind of abnormally good, and you say the actual number was pretty solid. We talked a lot, Pat, across this whole quarter because of Pat Gelsinger joining, IDM 2.0, Xeon third generation launch. We're seeing the company's 10 nanometer products hit the market. We're hearing about the 7 nanometer plans. We're hearing about foundry services. We're hearing about manufacturing coming back onshore. So we've talked a lot about it, but this, again, it kind of goes back to what I said about IBM. It's not an overnight thing. It's not just like you're going to have one night and all of a sudden Pat's going to come in and say something great, not you, Pat, the other Pat, and then everything's going to just be on track. Not how it goes. A couple other small notes, Pat, of strength. Mobileye had a really good quarter, 48% growth. And then the last thing was IoT saw a little bit of growth too at about 6%. So a couple other adjacencies, and that's a real important thing for Intel is that in the adjacencies that it's growth, it's not just data center chips and PC chips, but it's really all these other data-centric technologies that the company is focusing on. All right, let's get to our last topic, Pat, and try to keep this show on time. Apple, I know sometimes we talk about them, sometimes we don't. I know we're not probably the biggest fanboys ever, but they had their big spring event. Pat, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with your thoughts?
Yeah, so they had 7 announcements. Update to Apple Card, a purple iPhone 12, Apple Podcast subscriptions, 4K Apple TV with a new remote, a redesigned iMac with the M1, and a new iPad Pro. And I think what I want to focus on is the new iPad Pro. I don't give a lot of kudos to Apple, and I do hold them to a much higher bar than anybody else because they are worth a couple $1 trillion. And they have a near monopoly in smartphones in the US, and they've done a good job vertically integrating. The new iPad Pro is the first iPad Pro that I think deserves the Pro moniker. When I look at the processing power, the I/O, the keyboard, the ability to work outside of it. And I want to bracket this for professionals who want to have a one-step workflow, using the camera, using the pen, as opposed to maybe taking a picture and then moving it to a workstation, maybe using a Wacom pen, right? And then connecting that to your workstation. This does a really good job on a very narrow set of professional. It's not going to be for all workstation people or all creatives, but I got to give credit where credit's due. They put the M1 in there as well. I think most workstation applications are going to want more GPU, and the 8 performance cores isn't going to be enough for some people either, but I got to give credit where credit's due. The final thing, iMac goes M1, and this is going to sound really snotty, but the coolest thing I feel like Apple did on the iMac was the MagSafe power that it did, that I think is pretty cool. But there's a lot of places where they missed. The last iMac update was a decade long. They didn't put Face ID. That we've got fingerprint on the keyboard. It has a huge lip. Why? To make it thinner, I guess. I think consumers much rather have an edge to edge and maybe a little bit thinner. The iMac is thinner than an iPhone, Daniel, and I just don't know who's asking for that.
Well, we're going to carry it around,
I guess, and then finally, two USB ports. So they're I'm happy about, but and they're on the back. right? Where, you know, if you've got peripherals that are quick in and out, you got to wrap around the back. Anyways, got to give kudos where they are. Oh, final kudo, new Apple TV remote. I will probably buy 10 of them for the 10 Apple TVs that I own. Gets rid of that horrible trackpad that pretty much everybody hates.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go quick because we got to tie this one off, and we appreciate everybody tuning in. Had a chance to hop on Yahoo Finance. For me, this is all about M1isms, M1 everywhere. M1 is the future for Apple. No doubt that's the path they're going, is going to be these ARM-based cores. They talk about a lot of things as being there first and only and better. But I do need to remind everyone, Intel and AMD and others are doing a lot of the same things, a lot of the common and similar innovation. But the devices look good, Pat. And what I noticed from this event is what's old is new. And so these, you know, they're moving more towards services and more towards all kinds of other things to diversify their business. The colors, I mean, heck, that's cool. I don't know. My kids will dig an orange iMac. For me, I was fine with the old silver and black. I thought that looked pretty good. Still have a couple on my desk. So as much as I crap on Apple at times, I actually do buy their products. So I feel like that gives me more of a right to do that. A lot there. We'll come back to it. We'll watch that, Pat. By the way, that MagSafe charger, that's cool. But what's that thing going to be, like $300 along with that keyboard for the iPad? I mean, look, guys, make a touch laptop. Just do it. Just freaking do it already. My God, make one. Charge us like $4,000 and people will still buy it. Anyhow, all right, we got to move on. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this week's 6-5 podcast. We love having you here. We appreciate our community. Hit that subscribe button. Join us on Spotify. Join us on Apple Podcasts in that new paid service because we want a royalty. No, I'm just kidding. Nothing here in it for us. We definitely do appreciate our viewers on YouTube. Anywhere you are, hit subscribe. More coming from us soon on our big 6-5 Summit event. It is going to be a blowout, and you will want to be there mid-June. More details to come. All right, for this show, for Pat Moorhead, for myself, time to say goodbye. We'll see you later.